So we are looking this month at the power of decision, using a wonderful book by Charles Raymond Barker, Raymond Charles Barker, Barker Charles Raymond, I don't know. Some combination of those three words is his name. We'll just call him Charlie. Let's just call him Fred and just avoid the name altogether. Anyways, wonderful kind of classic book in those of us that have metaphysical libraries. This is one that many of us have and refer to from time to time because of his clarity of thought. And what he says to us is that until we make a decision, nothing happens. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Yeah, that we sit in infinite possibility, and that's lovely. Wonderful. But nothing happens until we take some of that possibility and direct it in a direction. So in making a decision, we start a process of clarity of mind and purpose, then followed by commitment, because you must commit to the decision. Then we follow that with action, and lo and behold, if at some point we don't have fulfillment of the vision that we established. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Now, I know this isn't rocket science. Or somebody I heard say recently, I know this isn't rocket surgery. Something I would say. Right? We know this. But then sometimes we forget. And we go about life as if that weren't so. So today, I'm going to speak to you about a concept called decide to be healthy. Now, I'm going to try not to be too shaming or blaming in this whole process. No, I'm kidding. But it's a wonderful thing, and I love what he says about this. He says to us, this is Fred, by the way, who is the he. He says, it starts with a mindset. The decision to be healthy starts with a mindset. Would you agree? Everything starts with a mindset. The stories we tell about ourselves, the beliefs we hold, what we've made up to be true, we live from that awareness. And so he says this to us. A person seeking health has to decide to be well before any spiritual therapy can start producing results. Another factor of equal importance is the expectation of being well. So a person seeking health has to decide to be well before any spiritual therapy can produce results. Another factor of equal importance is the expectation of being well. You see, I'm going to tell some deep, dark secrets today. Last week, we celebrated our wonderful new practitioners, our wonderful existing practitioners. Notice how I didn't say old practitioners. I've learned. Our existing practitioners, our new minister. And so practitioners in our teaching, spiritual practitioners are those individuals who are trained in the art and science of affirmative prayer. And so you can come to a practitioner and say, help me know this truth. I'm holding some belief that's contrary to this belief, and how do I know that? Because I see what's happening in my life, right? Pretty good way to know what you believe is to look at your life. Because our lives are always a reflection of our inner, often subconscious, but our belief system, our belief structure. So when it's not all roses and light and wonder, nothing wrong with you. It just means that there's something within us that is limiting that. So we can go to a spiritual practitioner and they can join us in knowing the truth and speaking the truth, and healing occurs. However, some people have interpreted that to mean I'm going to go to my voodoo doctor and they're going to do something to me, right? They're going to intervene. They're going to fix. They're going to do their magic thing, whatever that is. They're going to pull their abracadabra of the universe out of their hat and say these wonderful spiritual change, and my life will change. And the good news is I don't have to be different. Yes. Now, may I just say, when we develop that program, we will charge much, much more. So the Master said, when two or more are gathered in the presence of the I Am, something occurs. So Raymond Charles Barker is saying to us, you must come with the awareness and the understanding that healing can occur through us and the expectation that it will. Now, some of you have taken Prosperity Plus with us, and that'll be coming up again. Mary Morrissey tells this wonderful story of who she was as a young woman who found herself in a state. Is that what they call it? A state, meaning she was pregnant. Unwed, in high school, back in the day when that was not cool. So all of a sudden she went through this whole transformation. She had the baby, but there was a lot of shame that she carried in her consciousness around that experience. And so lo and behold, if at some point she didn't find herself in a hospital, her health going away, having to have her kidney removed, one of her kidneys, it turns out there's two, we have verified, there are two. She's having kidney removed, and things were not looking good. Into the hospital came this wonderful chaplain practitioner who asked her this. She said, I'd like you to imagine that you can be healed. Do you believe that to be so? This is all new information, remember. She said, no, I don't think so. She said, okay. Can you imagine that all that's going wrong in your body right now is now localized in the one kidney that's going to be removed tomorrow? And that when that is removed, all vestiges of this dis-ease will be removed with it, and you can begin a healing process. She said, yeah, I can buy that. And so, lo and behold, they removed the kidney, and she began a remarkable healing journey, which also began a remarkable ministry. If you know Mary Morrissey, she's everywhere, and she's brilliant and wonderful and changing the consciousness of the planet through that experience. You see, Jesus said to us, it is done unto you as you believe. I always say that's the key to that statement, because it'd be easier if it was done unto us as he believed. He's God, right? But we must join together in that consciousness of belief. So when we make the decision to be healthy, to live vibrantly, it is a conscious decision. Then it is imbued into our subconscious. I've shared my own journey. This has become kind of my new passion. Because for a long time I was very athletic. Then I went into ministry. And I ate cookies for 25 years. And lo and behold, I said, my goodness, if this keeps up, right? And so I made some decisions, and I've shared that many times with you, about really, a couple of years ago I made a decision to lose weight. I did. And then I went back into my old stressful patterns of living and doing the thing that I used to do, and lo and behold, there was more of me to love than you wanted. So this year, at the beginning of the year, I had a word with myself, if you will. And I said, let's get clear on what is the vision. Because what I realized, I had this revelation, if you will. I didn't wait for a heart attack or some other thing to happen, as I have been prone to do in the past. Let the crisis motivate the decision. No. There's another way. And so I said, What am I trying to do? What am I doing with my life? What is my life committed to? And my life is committed to ministry. My life is committed to loving and supporting and nurturing people in living their highest vision. And it occurred to me that if I didn't take better care of the vessel, then I would not be able to fulfill my ministry to its highest be. Because here's what I've discovered. Without a functioning vessel, you don't get to stay on the planet. Did you know this? Yeah. So it would make sense that we want to take better care of the vessel. So I went to my practitioner and I said, pray for my well-being. No, wait a minute, that was the old program. See me thin. You're right? Good practitioners say, go to the gym. I'll see you thin. It's easier to see you thin if you go to the gym, right? But I want you to hear the difference. The difference was the vision was about radical self-care. That I realized what Michael Beckwith told me many, many years ago in a retreat one time, and I've never forgot it. Haven't always practiced it, but I've never forgot it. He said, all you have to give is yourself and your relationship with the divine. Make sure you take care of both. I got half of the equation right. God and I are like this. But I didn't always take care of the physical vessel. So I made some choices and I began a program, and I know you get bored with my stories. I run and I do all this stuff, but I don't do that. I just like to share the journey because I figure it's like this athlete that went on hold for about 30 years is back and into it, going, cool, this is fun. But it was the mindset. The Bible says to us, be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. Such a beautiful statement. So true. That we are transformed by the renewal of our mind, which is to say we must have a new thought, we must have a new pattern, we must have a new possibility. And when we get the mindset right, we make the decision, we commit to the decision, and then we move into action. Now, I know I have some of the coolest metaphysical woo-woo friends you'll ever want to meet, right? And they can talk about chakras and tarot and forces of the universe and astrological stuff and all this cool stuff. They invite us to sit on our zafu cushion and om. And that's lovely. But it turns out in this world, we have to move into action at some point in time. So we take that mindset and then we start doing the things we know we should do. Now, my guess is some of you, all of you in this room, know what's good for you. Guessing all of you, some of you know what's not so good for you. So if it were just a simple matter of information, we'd all do it, right? But it's the subconscious making the choices that then allows that action so that we don't perhaps do the things that support us in our well-being. And so, what I found is it's pretty simple. Now, you can go to Barnes & Noble, to the half of the store that's about diet. Not the other half, the half that's all about all that stuff, right? And you can buy all kinds of stuff and all, it's all good. But here's the basics. Move. Eat properly, drink water, rest and renew, and I say have a spiritual practice. Now, you can embellish on that, but really the basics aren't that big of a deal. But sometimes we forget to move. Sometimes we go to the inner part of the store instead of along the outside of the store, where all the fat, rich, salty, sugary, processed stuff is, right? So this is not like, oh, I didn't know that, right? It is, what are we committing our lives to? What decision are we making? I was reminded of a wonderful story. In fact, I used the quote this week. I always do a weekly quote. And the quote this week is from Horst Rechelbacher. Horst Rechelbacher is the founder of Aveda, for those of you familiar with Aveda products. Wonderful, naturally plant-based, aromatherapy-based stuff. I have been addicted for about 25 years. Now I am not a spokesman, but I'm thinking about renegotiating my contract because I've been telling everybody how wonderful it is. But he says this, he says, well-being is not simply eating better or exercising more. It is finding balance, health, and contentment in all areas of our life. Because you see, it turns out when one area of our life is out of balance, it often shows up in another area. There are people that I have read about who get stressed out and they eat to compensate for that. I know, can you believe it? Those people. But I love Horst's story. This story, because what happened, he grew up in Austria, he lived across from a salon, he had an interest in health and well-being, he had an interest in the environment, he had an interest in the salon. All those things kind of came together in a mind. He came to America, he was traveling across the States on tour, and in Minneapolis, he had a radical car accident, which put him in the hospital. Now, he didn't have a lot of money at this point in time, and he had no insurance. So by the time he was done in the hospital, he'd racked up quite a bill. But he made a decision, hear this, he made a decision and a commitment that he would stay in Minneapolis until his bill was paid in full. And so in Minneapolis, he began to work with these things that had intrigued him. He began to put together the formulations for these things. He began to understand that it probably is not good for us to use petrochemicals on our body, which a lot of products are based in, but rather what if we use naturally based, organically grown aromatherapic, I don't think that's the right word, but it's good enough, close enough, things. And so he began to develop this idea. He saw himself as an environmentalist, and that happened increasingly over time. He began to see the plight of the planet and the ongoing damage that we were incurring. He felt that very intensely, and he saw that the way he could contribute to the well-being was through this. You see, sometimes we think, well, I need to do good work in the world, so I'm going to go to India, be Mother Teresa, or I'm going to do this thing. But you see, he took what was in front of him, where his passion was, and his larger environmental commitment, and began to develop a company. Now, he was intense, as a lot of these great people are. His public relations director said he was larger than life was sure. He was very, 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 that's 3, clear on what he wanted. He was tremendously demanding. He was a visionary, and you really had to understand his vision and to perform for him at a certain level. You see, when people take that vision and then they move into the action, he made the decision, he moved into action, he followed that vision, he had a commitment to a larger picture of improving the well-being on the planet through the things that he knew. And he began to develop a company that grew and grew and became very important. And so many years later, he sold Aveda for $300 million. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these stories in this wonderful place we call the United States. It's one of the things I love the most about our country. We have a culture that says, take your idea, work with it, create your life. And so now understand this, why this impresses me is not that he set out to make $300 million, how can I do it? He set out to fulfill a commitment that he believed he had. He took the resources he had available to him, the knowledge, the wisdom, and he created the others and began to put together a program and a system through shampoo. Healing through shampoo. Who knew, right? And so his vision became a greater possibility. I love this story because what it helps us to remember is some very key things. That we should have a larger commitment. You see, this is what I finally got. It only took me 55 years to get there, but I got there. So hey, hallelujah. That the commitment was not to the outer, not to weight loss, not to whatever. The commitment was to how I wanted to show up in the world. Of self-care, of well-being. And then from that place and that commitment to myself and to you, I moved into action. Then I started doing the things I knew to do. Now, guess what? I'm going to tell you a little secret. I knew the things to do before I started. 30 years ago. But, I'm slow, but I get there, right? So again, that's why I always say it's not that we're lacking information in our lives. We're lacking making the decision, making the commitment, taking that commitment, moving it into action, and doing the things that will bring about the fulfillment of the vision. Every one of us has this inherent capacity. That's exciting. I know you like to tell stories. I don't tell stories, so I'm going to make this about you, about people and being lucky and la-da-da and dee-dee-dee, and it's easy for them and they don't understand and blah, 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 right? But here's the thing. What I see is if one can do it, all can do it. This is why I think we fundamentally misunderstand sometimes the message of Jesus. I'm talking culturally. For us, we say Jesus is the great example, not the great exception. And I base this on biblical study. I want you to hear, I've actually read something, believe it or not. Because in reading the story carefully, it wasn't just Jesus in the world doing these miracles. If you read carefully, what we understand is that he began to teach the 12. And there was healings that occurred. Except in places where there was no belief. Hear this. Not done unto you as I believe, or it is done unto you as you believe. And then the 12 taught the 70. So there was a whole thing taking place, which is why what we have today is a part of a thing. Now what I believe is these wonderful practitioners and ministers who stood before you last week are really practicing something that I believe the great spiritual teachers teach us. We're not doing something to people. We're recognizing a spiritual reality of wholeness, of love, of joy, of well-being. And we are calling that forth. We are willing to release that which no longer serves us. You see, because here's the thing. What I know is true on a physical level is also true on a spiritual level. And there is a spiritual truth. You look at this in the cycle of life that is called assimilation, circulation, and elimination. Right? We eat. It circulates through our body. We eliminate. Trying to keep this a little higher level consciousness today. Right? It's what happens in life. I believe there's a spiritual component to this as well. That we assimilate in mental and spiritual intake that circulates through our body, and we have to release that which isn't like the highest part of our body. So if our mental diet is nothing but junk food, too much TV, bad news, all we're doing is feeding ourselves with negativity, we circulate that through our body, and we have different results. If we practice the assimilation of the divine, of things that uplift us, of things that inspire us, of things that make us feel more whole and more peaceful and more joyful. And we circulate that through our being, and we eliminate those things which no longer serve us through prayer and forgiveness. Then we start to walk through the world, and we become, as we've talked about, attractive to that which we seek. I'm always fascinated by people. I've been one of them, so I recognize it right away, that whine and complain and do all this stuff, and then they're shocked that they have negativity in their lives. Shocked. I don't understand why this keeps happening to me, they say. Well, God bless you. Perhaps we invite it. Just saying. But the good news for all of us is if we don't like the results, let us change the cause. Now, it is not your spouse. For those of you who are listening to this message right now thinking, I've got to get a CD to give to my partner, and you know who you are, perhaps this message is for vous, right? It always starts with ourselves. As we've begun this spiritual journey with these lovely new practitioners and former practitioners, it's always funny to watch that all healing occurs within. We start thinking, how can I fix them? It's like, you're not going to fix them. We're going to work on our own consciousness that sees the spiritual truth and reality, and then we invite others to join us in that realm. And new thought creates new condition. New possibility emerges. It's a lovely and wonderful thing. So I would love to tell you, here's the 3 simple steps. You already know what to do. But if we want to experience greater health and well-being, it starts with that commitment, with the decision to be healthy, followed by the commitment, followed by the action, and then someday you will stand before an audience with a buffed body like mine. Or not. It's still a work in progress, but you know, right? Right? It's so lovely. It's so wonderful. That's why I said it's really funny for me that I kind of forgot that part of myself because I was going to take care of everybody's spiritual well-being. I thought, well, I got to take care of the body too if I'm going to do this for a long time. And so there's a balancing. This is what I say over and over. We are spiritual beings, yes, housed in a human form. And while we're hanging out here, we need to figure out that relationship, how the Spirit is using the physical realm to bring forth the life that we want. And that's what we're about. So wherever you are, I hope I wasn't was I too shaming for anyone? No. Have a healing. Get yourself a healing. Practitioners are standing by. It's just an invitation. We say it all the time. It's an invitation to remember that we are powerful beyond measure. But until we own our own power, until we begin to utilize our own power, it's just potential. So I'm making the decision and the commitment that greater good comes forward. So I invite you to decide to be healthy, to be wealthy, to be wise, to be your brilliant self. Let us pray. As we turn inward, honoring and acknowledging this one divine presence, this infinite being, this joyful acceptance of spiritual truth, that there is but one life, one power, one infinite essence. It is the one life that all religious traditions speak of. No matter what name it is given, it is bigger and greater than that. It is indeed a creative intelligence, which is the source and the substance of all that is. And so by its very nature, it is wholeness, always in perfect harmony with itself. In it, love, joy, peace, abundance abides. And so in this moment, we release the limiting idea that we are somehow separate from the one life. It defies reason. Rather, why we recognize and know that it is this one life living and moving and being in us, expressing through us. And so that which is true for the whole must be true for its parts. Wholeness, beauty, love, joy, harmony is the order of the day. And so I speak the word of truth for each of us gathered here, as I recognize that spiritual wholeness revealing itself as health, as well-being, as vitality. I recognize that spiritual intelligence revealing itself as love, healing, and transforming. We let go of fear. We let go of darkness. We let go of resentment. We practice radical and unconditional forgiveness, that we might enter into a wider, greater worldview, seeing the divine in all things. We know that right here, right now, we are abundant beings. For we are one with that which is the source and the substance of all that is. So we assimilate this new idea. We allow it to circulate through every part of our consciousness, and we release in a limiting idea of struggle, of effort. We allow the path to be easy and the way made straight. We move forward with absolute confidence that as we are clear in our intention and our commitment, then the universe rushes to meet that new way of being. So I'm just knowing right here and right now, as we join together in this holy and sacred space, that if there was a burden that you brought into the room, perhaps now this is the time. This is the place to release, to surrender, which is not to give up, but to open up to the greater possibility seeking its emergence through you. This is the truth that I'm knowing. This is the truth that I accept. This is the truth I announce and proclaim. For I know we are blessed, blessed beyond measure. And as we are blessed, we extend a blessing. We bless this spiritual community. For indeed it is a divine idea unfolding perfectly, joyously and abundantly supplied, always divinely directed. We extend a blessing from this place to bless our brothers and sisters around the planet. We continue to hold the high watch that whatever conditions may appear, there is a greater spiritual reality seeking its emergence. We hold that high vision for a planet at peace, for a world that works for all. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith. For we know that where two or more are gathered in the name of this divine I Am, the presence is there, regardless of pathway. How good it is to join in the healing and revelation of truth, of joy, of peace. So it is with profound gratitude that I speak this word, releasing it into the divine law, knowing that it is so, as together we say, and so it is.